I never thought I'd be the guy sitting at my own kitchen table, fork halfway to my mouth, staring down at a plate of spaghetti like it had just grown legs and tried to crawl away. But there I was, heart pounding in my chest, bile already creeping up the back of my throat, wondering how the woman I'd loved for 8 years could look me in the eye and tell me what she'd really done to our dinner. What would you do if you found out the person who's supposed to have your back, the one who kisses you goodnight and promises forever, had secretly blended 6-day-old leftovers into your food without a single warning? And the craziest part? I'd already swallowed half a plate before the truth hit me like a freight train. I had no idea my entire evening, my appetite, and maybe even a little piece of my trust in her was about to shatter right there over a simple bowl of pasta. Let me take you back to the beginning of that night, because to really understand how we got here, you have to feel the whole thing. The way the house smelled, the way her voice sounded when she was excited, the way I walked through the door thinking this was just another ordinary Tuesday. I'd had one of those long, soul-crushing days at the office. You know the kind. Back-to-back meetings where everyone's arguing over deadlines that don't matter, my boss breathing down my neck about quarterly numbers, and me just counting the minutes until I could kick off my shoes and collapse on the couch. I'm a project manager at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and lets me come home to Sarah every night. Sarah. God, even saying her name in my head still hits different. We've been married for 6 years now, together for 8, and I still remember the first time I saw her like it was yesterday. She was this bright-eyed barista at the coffee shop near my old apartment, laughing with customers while she drew little hearts in the foam of my latte. I asked her out on the spot, and somehow, against all odds, she said yes. That's the thing about Sarah. She's always been the adventurous one, the spark in our relationship. I'm the steady guy, the planner, the one who double-checks expiration dates and makes sure the smoke detectors have fresh batteries. She's the one who'll drag me to a new restaurant on a whim, or try some crazy recipe she saw on TikTok at 2 a.m. I love that about her. Or at least I did, until last night. We don't have kids yet. We've been talking about it, saving up, painting the spare room in soft yellows just in case. But our little 2-bedroom house in the suburbs feels like home because of her. She's the one who makes it warm, who lights candles and plays our playlist while she cooks. So when I pulled into the driveway around 6:30, the sun already dipping low and painting everything golden, I was already smiling. The kitchen windows were steamed up, and this incredible smell was wafting out. Garlic, tomatoes, basil, that deep, rich aroma of homemade sauce that makes your mouth water before you even open the door. I walked in, tie loosened, jacket slung over my shoulder, and there she was at the stove, stirring a big pot with her hair pulled back in that messy bun I love, wearing my old college hoodie that swallows her petite frame. "Hey babe," she called over her shoulder, her voice all bright and bubbly like she'd been waiting to surprise me. "I tried something new tonight. No questions until you taste it, okay? Just trust me." She flashed me that grin, the one that still makes my knees a little weak after all this time, and I laughed, setting my stuff down on the counter. "You know I trust you with my life, Sarah, especially when it smells like heaven in here." I leaned in to kiss her cheek, and she swatted me away playfully with the wooden spoon, sauce splattering a little on the tile floor. We chatted about my day while she plated everything up, twirling the spaghetti with that perfect fork twist she does, ladling on extra sauce because she knows I like it saucy. The table was already set with the nice plates we got for our wedding, a couple of candles flickering, and even a bottle of that cheap red wine we both pretend is fancy. I sat down, stomach growling after skipping lunch, and dug in. First bite, warm, comforting, the noodles perfectly al dente. It was good. Really good. But after a few more forkfuls, something felt off. Not bad exactly, but weirdly sweet in a way that didn't quite match the tangy tomato base. And then this earthy undertone that sat heavy on my tongue. like it had been sitting a little too long, or something had been added that wasn't quite right. I chewed slower, trying to place it, my eyebrows furrowing just a bit. Sarah was watching me from across the table, her own plate barely touched, eyes sparkling with that mischievous excitement she gets when she's pulled off some kitchen experiment. "Well?" she asked, leaning forward on her elbows. "What do you think? Be honest." I took another bite, still trying to figure it out. The sauce clung to the noodles in this thick, almost velvety way that was new. And yeah, it was sweet. Almost like there was a hint of something fermented or aged. My mind was racing through possibilities. Did she add honey? Balsamic? Some weird spice from that fancy store she loves? "It's different," I said carefully, swallowing. "Good different, I think. But what did you change? It's got this sweetness and this, I don't know, earthy flavor I can't pin down. Did you put in mushrooms or something?" She set her fork down, a little smile playing on her lips like she was about to drop the punchline to the world's best joke. "Okay, so I had all that leftover spaghetti from last week, the one we ordered from that Italian place on Friday, the big container in the fridge. I blended it up, noodles and all, and mixed it right into the fresh sauce to thicken it. Genius, right? It gives it that perfect body without needing cornstarch or anything. I've been wanting to try it forever." For a second, I just sat there, fork suspended in midair, the words sinking in like lead weights. 6 days ago. Leftover spaghetti from 6 whole days ago. Noodles that had been sitting in our fridge, probably touched by our forks, maybe even left out on the counter for a minute too long before we packed it away. Blended into my dinner. My brain short-circuited. I could feel the exact moment the texture in my mouth shifted from delicious to, what the hell did I just swallow? The sweetness? That was probably the starch from the old noodles breaking down. The earthiness? God, who knows? Maybe some faint fridge taste, or the way pasta gets after it's been reheated too many times in your mind. My stomach did a slow, nauseating flip. I dropped the fork with a clatter, pushing the plate away so fast it skidded across the table a couple inches. "You... what?" My voice came out hoarse like I'd been punched in the gut. "Sarah, you blended 6-day-old spaghetti into this? And you didn't tell me before I ate it?" She blinked, her smile faltering just a fraction, but then she laughed, actually laughed, like I was being ridiculous. "Babe, it's literally the same ingredients. Tomatoes, pasta, meat, everything was already cooked. I just pureed it to make the sauce better. You've eaten half the plate already and you liked it. Come on, it's not a big deal." But it was. It was a huge deal. I could feel my face heating up, that familiar mix of betrayal and disgust bubbling in my chest like the sauce on the stove. I wasn't mad about the taste anymore. I was sick over the principle of it. The way she'd tricked me. The way she'd stood there, all excited, knowing full well what was in it, and letting me take those first, unsuspecting bites. My mind flashed to all the times we'd joked about food safety. How I'd always been the one to throw out anything past 3 days in the fridge because better safe than sorry. And here she was, feeding me something that had been sitting for 6 days. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood on tile echoing too loud in our cozy kitchen. "Sarah, if I had known, I never would have eaten it. Not a single bite. That's gross." It's not about the ingredients being the same. It's about the fact that it was old, sitting there, and you hid it from me. Her expression changed then, from playful to hurt in a heartbeat. Her eyes welled up a little, and she crossed her arms tight over her chest, the hoodie sleeves bunching up. "So now I'm gross? I spent an hour in here making this for you, trying to be creative, and you're acting like I served you garbage from the trash. You already ate it. It was fine." "You're just being dramatic because you know now. This is so wasteful, and honestly, it feels disrespectful. Like you don't trust my cooking at all." I stood up, my legs feeling shaky, that half plate of spaghetti sitting there like evidence in a crime scene. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. part of me wanted to hug her, to smooth it over like I always do, because I hate when she's upset. But another part, the louder part right then, was screaming that this wasn't okay. I have a right to know what's going into my body, don't I? Especially after a long day when all I wanted was to relax and enjoy a meal with my wife? I grabbed the bread from the pantry and some deli meat from the fridge, slapping together a sandwich with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. "I'm not trying to hurt your feelings," I said, my voice cracking a little. "But I feel tricked. If you'd told me up front, maybe I would have tried a tiny bite out of love for you. But this? Blending old noodles and passing it off as new? I can't finish it. I just can't." She didn't say anything else right then. Just stood up, dumped her own plate in the sink with a loud clatter, and started cleaning up in silence. The clink of dishes, the running water, it all felt too sharp, too final. The candles were still burning, but the warmth was gone. I ate my sandwich at the counter, tasting nothing, my mind replaying every bite of that pasta on a loop. By the time I finished, she'd already gone to the bedroom, door shut just a little too firmly. The rest of the night was this heavy, awkward quiet. We barely spoke, me on the couch scrolling through my phone without seeing anything, her in the kitchen finishing the dishes. When I finally crawled into bed, she turned her back to me, the space between us feeling like miles. The next morning, it got worse. She was already up, coffee made, but no smile. And I could tell from the way she was texting on her phone that she'd spilled everything to her family. Her mom, her sister, they've always been tight, the kind of family that circles the wagons at the first sign of drama. By lunchtime, my phone was blowing up with messages from her side. "How could you embarrass her like that? She was just trying to make dinner special. You're overreacting. It's just pasta." I felt my chest tighten reading them, that familiar guilt gnawing at me even as I stood my ground in my own head. But then I called my mom on the way home from work that evening, because I needed someone in my corner, and she listened quietly while I poured it all out. "Honey," she said, her voice soft but firm like it always is, "that does sound gross. You shouldn't have to be tricked into eating something you wouldn't have chosen. It's about respect, not just the food." I hung up feeling a little less alone, but the knot in my stomach was still there. Sarah and I have always been solid. We've weathered job stress, family holidays that went sideways, even that one big fight about money last year. But this felt different, like a tiny crack in the foundation that I couldn't ignore. I love her, I really do. She's my best friend, my partner, the one who makes me laugh until my sides hurt. But in that moment, standing in our driveway again, with the same golden light filtering through the trees, I wondered if I was the asshole for drawing a line in the spaghetti sauce. Or was I just standing up for myself? I pulled the car into the garage, the engine ticking as it cooled, and sat there for a long minute with my hands still gripping the wheel. The house looked the same as always, warm lights glowing through the curtains, the little wind chime Sarah hung last summer tinkling softly in the evening breeze. But it didn't feel the same, not anymore. That crack I'd felt last night, it was widening, and I could sense it in the pit of my stomach like a stone I couldn't swallow. I grabbed my briefcase and headed inside, the smell of coffee hitting me first, strong and bitter, the way she makes it when she's trying to keep things normal, but her heart's not in it. Sarah was at the kitchen island, chopping vegetables for what I guessed was dinner number 2, her back to me, shoulders a little too rigid. She didn't turn around right away. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice even, like if I spoke too loud, the whole fragile peace we'd built in the last 24 hours might shatter again. "Smells good already. What's on the menu tonight?" She finally glanced over her shoulder and I saw it. The redness around her eyes, the way her lips were pressed into a thin line. She'd been crying, or at least holding it back all day. "Just stir fry, nothing fancy. No surprises this time." The words landed like a jab, sharp and pointed, and I felt that familiar twist in my chest, the guilt and the defensiveness warring inside me. I set my bag down and stepped closer, wanting to wrap my arms around her like I always did after a fight. But something stopped me. The memory of that fork clattering on the table, the way the sauce had looked suddenly wrong on my plate. It was still too fresh. "Sarah, can we talk about this? Really talk?" I asked, leaning against the counter, my fingers tracing the edge of the granite like it could ground me. My heart was picking up speed again, that same hammering from last night, and I could feel the heat rising in my face. "I hate that you're upset. I hate that your family thinks I'm some kind of monster for not finishing the plate. But babe, you tricked me. You let me eat something I would have said no to, and then you acted like I was the bad guy for having a reaction once I knew." She set the knife down with a deliberate clink, turning to face me fully. Her eyes, those big brown ones that had made me fall in love 100 times over, were shining with fresh tears now. "Tricked you? God, listen to yourself. It was leftover pasta, not rat poison. I was trying to be resourceful, to make something special after you complained last week that our meals were getting boring. And you ate it. You said it was good. But the second I tell you the truth, because I was excited, because I thought you'd laugh with me, you look at me like I'm disgusting, like I betrayed you or something." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she swiped at her cheek angrily. "My mom called this morning. She said I should have known better than to expect you to appreciate creativity in the kitchen, that maybe I'm the one who needs to lower my expectations." I felt the words hit like a slap. Her family, tight-knit, opinionated, always quick to defend their own, had been blowing up her phone, and now mine too, with passive-aggressive texts about communication in marriage and not wasting food when people are starving. It made my blood boil a little, but mostly it just made me tired. Deep down, I knew she wasn't a villain. Sarah had grown up in a house where leftovers were sacred, where her dad would stretch every meal until it was unrecognizable because money was tight after he lost his job. She told me those stories on our second date, how it taught her to be inventive, to never throw anything away. I loved that about her back then, the way she turned scraps into gold. But this felt different. This felt like she'd crossed a line I didn't even know I had until it was too late. "I do appreciate you," I said, my voice softer now, but the knot in my throat made it waver. "Every night I come home to you cooking, to you trying new things. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with you. Remember that time you made the chocolate lasagna for my birthday? I thought it was the weirdest idea ever, but I ate 3 helpings because you were so proud. I trusted you then because you told me up front. That's all I'm asking for here, transparency. If I'd known it was 6-day-old noodles blended in, I could have made an informed choice. Instead, I felt violated, like my body wasn't even mine to decide about." The word violated hung heavy in the air, and I saw her flinch. Maybe it was too strong, but it was honest. My mind flashed back to the night before, the way the pasta had sat in my stomach like a rock all evening, the nausea that kept me up until 2 a.m., replaying every chew. I'd brushed my teeth 3 times, the mint burning my tongue, but I still tasted that weird sweetness. She crossed her arms again, but this time it wasn't defensive. It was like she was holding herself together. "You think I don't respect you? I make your favorite meals. I plan our weekends. I'm the one who remembers your mom's birthday when you forget. And one experiment, one time I try to save us money and time, and suddenly I'm the enemy? Your mom's on your side, of course. She always thinks my cooking is too experimental anyway. She told you it's gross, right? Bet that felt validating." There was a bitterness in her tone that stung, and I realized then how much this had snowballed. We weren't just fighting about spaghetti anymore. This was about every little thing we'd swept under the rug. The way I shut down when she got too creative, the way she pushed when I needed space. Our marriage wasn't crumbling, but it was straining, like a rope pulled too tight between us. I reached out then, finally, my hand brushing her arm. Her skin was warm, familiar, And for a second I remembered our honeymoon in that tiny cabin up north. How we'd cooked pasta together over a camp stove and laughed when the sauce boiled over. "I'm sorry I hurt your feelings," I whispered, meaning it. "I never want to embarrass you or make you feel like your efforts don't matter. But I also can't pretend it was okay. I get a say in what goes into my body, Sarah. We both do. If the roles were reversed, if I'd blended something funky into your food without telling you, wouldn't you feel the same?" She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. The silence stretched between us, thick with all the unsaid things. Outside, the neighbor's dog barked, and the wind chime kept its lonely melody. I could smell the onions sizzling in the pan now, sharp and real, grounding me in the moment. My chest ached with this weird mix of love and frustration. Love for the woman who still made my heart skip when she smiled. Frustration at how quickly a plate of pasta had turned into this emotional minefield. She finally sighed, long and heavy, and nodded once. "Maybe. I don't know. I felt proud, you know? Like I'd hacked the system. And then you made me feel stupid for it." Her voice was small, and it broke something in me. I pulled her into a hug then, her head fitting perfectly under my chin like it always had, and I breathed in the scent of her shampoo. Coconut and vanilla, the one I'd bought her last month. We stood like that for what felt like forever, the stir-fry bubbling forgotten on the stove. I told her I loved her, that we'd figure it out, that maybe next time we could experiment together with full disclosure. She nodded against my chest, but I could feel the tension still humming in her shoulders. Dinner that night was quiet. Stir-fry tasted fine, but everything had this undercurrent of careful politeness. No candles, no playlist, just forks scraping plates and small talk about work. Later, as we lay in bed, the room dark except for the glow of the streetlight through the blinds, I stared at the ceiling and let my mind wander. Was I the asshole? Her family sure thought so. They'd texted her again that afternoon, rallying around their daughter like she was the victim in some kitchen crime. But my mom had called back too, checking in, reminding me that boundaries matter, even in marriage. "You can love someone and still say no," she'd said. "That's healthy." I rolled over, watching Sarah's breathing even out, her face soft in sleep. She looked so peaceful, so much like the girl I'd married. But inside, I was a storm. Regret for making her cry, relief that I'd stood my ground, fear that this tiny thing could grow into something bigger if we didn't fix it. The trust I'd always felt so effortlessly? It had a dent now, a little scar from blended old noodles, and a secret she'd thought was harmless. I wondered if she felt it too, that shift, if tomorrow we'd wake up and laugh about it over coffee, or if the silence would linger like the taste of that pasta on my tongue. The days that followed blurred into this strange, heavy fog, where everything in our house felt just a little bit off kilter, like the air itself was thicker with everything we weren't saying. I woke up the next morning to the sound of Sarah in the shower, the water running steady and hot, like she was trying to wash away the whole spaghetti incident. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan, spinning lazy circles, my mind replaying that hug from the night before. The way her body had fit against mine, familiar and warm, but how her shoulders had stayed tense, like she was still holding on to the hurt. My chest felt tight, a dull ache that wouldn't loosen no matter how many deep breaths I took. Was I really the villain here? Part of me kept whispering that I'd overreacted, that it was just pasta for God's sake, and that love meant eating the weird experiments sometimes. But the louder voice, the one that had made me push that plate away, kept reminding me, trust isn't blind. Not when it comes to what you put in your body. Not when the person who knows you best decides to keep you in the dark. I got up, made coffee, black and strong, the way I like it when my head's a mess. And by the time she came out in her robe, hair damp and smelling like that coconut shampoo, I had breakfast waiting. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast, but I'd plated it nice, added a little note on a napkin that said, "I love you more than leftovers." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We ate in that careful quiet again, forks clinking softly, and when she finally spoke, her voice was small. My sister texted last night. She says I should make you apologize to the family group chat, that you made me look bad. The words landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading out. I felt my jaw clench, the eggs turning to ash in my mouth. Her family, the ones who'd always treated our marriage like a group project they got to vote on, were circling now, and it stung deeper than I expected. Apologize for what exactly? I asked, keeping my tone even though my heart was starting that familiar hammer again. For not wanting to eat blended week-old noodles? Or for daring to tell you how it made me feel? She looked down at her plate, pushing a piece of toast around with her fork, and I could see the conflict in her face, the loyalty to them battling with the love for me. Sarah's family had always been her rock. Her mom raised her and her sister alone after their dad bailed when she was 12, scraping by on waitressing gigs and teaching them to stretch every dollar. That's where the leftover obsession came from, I knew. She'd told me once, late at night after too much wine, how her mom would blend anything into soups to make it last, how it was survival, not creativity. I got it. I really did. But this wasn't survival. This was our kitchen, our life, and I wasn't some kid who had to eat whatever was put in front of him. The rest of that day dragged. I went to work, buried myself in spreadsheets and emails, but every notification on my phone made my stomach drop. Her mom had added me to the family text thread now. Subtle guilt trips like, "We raised Sarah to be thoughtful in the kitchen. Hope you appreciate that someday." And heart emojis that felt anything but warm. My own mom called during lunch, her voice calm and steady like always. "Honey, you're not wrong for having boundaries. Food is personal, but marriage is about meeting in the middle, too. Maybe cook something together this weekend. No secrets." Her words helped, a little, but they also made the guilt twist sharper. I loved Sarah's fire, her heart, the way she'd once stayed up all night nursing me through the flu with homemade soup. Real soup, fresh ingredients, no tricks. How had we gone from that to this cold war over a plate of pasta? By the time I got home that evening, the tension had thickened like the sauce she'd made. Sarah was in the living room, curled up on the couch with her laptop, scrolling through recipes like she was daring the universe to give her another idea. The house smelled clean, lemon polish and laundry detergent, but under it all was this unspoken heaviness. I sat down next to her, close enough that our knees touched, and reached for her hand. "Babe, I've been thinking about it all day. I hate this distance between us. I'm sorry I made you feel embarrassed in front of your family. That wasn't my intention. But I need you to hear me too. I felt tricked, and it scared me a little. Not because of the food, but because, what if it's more than that? What if we stop being honest about the little things?" She closed the laptop, turning to face me fully, and for the first time since the fight, her eyes softened. Tears welled up again, but this time they spilled over, tracing slow paths down her cheeks. "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking in that way that always guts me. "I was excited, and I thought if you tasted it first, you'd see it wasn't a big deal. But I get it now. It felt like a secret, and secrets suck in a marriage. My family, they're protective. Mom keeps saying I shouldn't have to prove my cooking to you, but I told her to back off. This is between us." She squeezed my hand, and I felt a rush of relief flood through me, warm and real, like the first sip of coffee on a cold morning. We talked then, really talked, for over an hour. I told her about my childhood, how my mom had been strict about food safety after a bad bout of food poisoning when I was 10, how it made me cautious in ways I didn't even realize. She shared more about her dad leaving, how leftovers became this symbol of making do, of not wasting love or resources. The conversation flowed easy after that, laughter creeping in when I admitted the pasta hadn't tasted half bad until I knew, and she teased me about my delicate palate. We ordered takeout that night, real Italian, no blending involved, and ate it on the couch, legs tangled, her head on my shoulder, while some mindless show played in the background. The knot in my chest loosened, but it didn't disappear completely. That little scar was still there, a reminder that even the smallest deceptions can echo. I lay awake again that night, listening to her breathe, feeling her warmth against me, and wondered how many other tiny cracks we'd patched over without noticing. Sarah shifted in her sleep, murmuring something soft, and I pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. I loved her fiercely, messily, completely, but I also loved myself enough to say no when something didn't sit right. Maybe that's what marriage really is. Not perfect harmony, but two people learning to navigate the weird, earthy flavors life throws at you without losing each other in the sauce. The weekend came, and we did what my mom suggested. We cooked together. No experiments, just her guiding me through a simple marinara from scratch. Fresh tomatoes bursting under my knife, garlic sizzling in the pan with that sharp, comforting bite. We laughed when I oversalted it, danced to our old playlist in the kitchen, and for those few hours, everything felt golden again. But as we sat down to eat, plates steaming and candles lit once more, I caught her watching me with this thoughtful look, like she was measuring something. "You know," she said quietly, twirling her fork, "my family's still texting. They think I let you off too easy, but I told them the truth. I respect you too much to hide stuff anymore." Her words warmed me, but they also lit a small spark of worry. How long until the family pressure cracked us again? How long until another creative idea tested the line I'd drawn? I took her hand across the table, the candlelight flickering soft shadows on her face, and in that moment, I felt the full weight of it all. The love, the fear, the growth. This fight over spaghetti wasn't the end of us. It was a mirror, showing us where we needed to sharpen our honesty. My heart still carried that faint echo of disgust from that first plate, but it was fading, replaced by something stronger. The quiet certainty that we'd keep choosing each other, secrets and all. Or at least, I hoped we would. The weeks that rolled by after that weekend in the kitchen felt like a slow thaw after a hard freeze. Everything softening around the edges, but with these little reminders that winter had left its mark. Sarah and I fell back into our rhythm, the one that had always felt effortless before the spaghetti bomb dropped. Morning started with her brewing coffee while I made the eggs, her humming off-key to the radio like old times, me stealing kisses over the counter that lingered just a second longer than usual. But underneath it all, that faint, earthy aftertaste from that night still haunted my dreams sometimes. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, imagining forks clattering and her eyes filling with hurt, and I'd pull her closer in the dark, whispering, "I love you," into her hair until my heart slowed down. She never said it out loud, but I could tell she felt the shift too. The way she'd pause now before describing a new recipe, her voice careful, like she was testing the waters every time. "Just fresh stuff, babe," she'd add with a small smile, and I'd laugh, but inside my chest would tighten because I hated that she even had to clarify. Then came the real test. Her family decided it was time for one of those mandatory Sunday dinners at her mom's house, the kind where the whole clan shows up with casseroles and opinions, and everyone pretends it's just about the food. I'd been dreading it since the texts started piling up again, little jabs from her sister about sensitive stomachs, and her mom forwarding articles on how to support your wife's creativity. Sarah squeezed my hand in the car on the way over, her palm clammy against mine. "We don't have to stay long," she said, her voice steady but her eyes flicking to the road like she was steeling herself too. The house smelled like always, roast beef and potatoes, that heavy, comforting fog that used to make me feel like part of the family. But tonight it felt thicker, almost suffocating. The laughter from the living room a little too loud, like they were all performing normalcy. Her mom hugged me first, a quick squeeze that felt more like a warning than welcome. "Glad you could make it," she said, her eyes narrowing just enough. Sarah told us you two worked things out. Good. No more drama over dinner, right? The words were light, but the room went quiet for a beat, Forks pausing mid-air as her sister and brother-in-law exchanged looks. I felt the heat creep up my neck, that old hammer in my chest kicking back to life. Sarah jumped in before I could speak, her hand still in mine under the table. Mom, it wasn't drama. It was a boundary, and we're stronger for it. Her voice didn't waver, and something in me swelled with pride and relief so sharp it stung my eyes. But her mom wasn't done. She set down her wineglass with a soft clink, leaning forward. Boundary? Honey, in this family, we eat what's put in front of us. Your father and I stretched every meal to feed you girls, and no one complained. He's making you feel bad for trying to be a good wife. The table erupted then, her sister piling on about wastefulness, her brother-in-law muttering something about modern men being too soft. My face burned, the roast beef turning to sawdust in my mouth. I could feel the bile rising again, not from food this time, but from the weight of all those eyes judging me, turning our private moment into public spectacle. My mind raced back to that Tuesday night, the candlelight, the way Sarah's excitement had flipped to pain when I pushed the plate away. I'd spent weeks turning it over in my head, wondering if I was the asshole for refusing to just choke it down and smile. But sitting there, surrounded by their love wrapped in guilt, I knew I wasn't. I had a right to my body, to my trust, even if it meant hurting feelings for a minute. I love your daughter, I said, my voice low but firm, cutting through the noise. More than anything. But love doesn't mean I swallow secrets with my dinner. She blended 6-day-old pasta into my food without telling me, and yeah, it made me sick, not the taste, but the hiding. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I'm trying to keep us honest. If that makes me the bad guy here, then I guess I'll own it. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. Sarah's eyes met mine, shining with tears, but also something deeper. Respect? Maybe even admiration? Her mom opened her mouth, then closed it, her shoulders slumping just a fraction. Well, she said finally, I suppose we all have our ways. It wasn't an apology, but it was enough. The conversation shifted after that, awkward at first, then easing into safer topics. Work, the weather, the neighbor's new puppy. But I could feel the crack in their united front. And more importantly, I felt Sarah's hand tighten in mine, her thumb tracing circles on my skin like a promise. We left early, the night air cool against my flushed face as we walked to the car. Sarah didn't speak until we were halfway home, the streetlights casting long shadows across the dashboard. Then she pulled over on a quiet side street, killed the engine, and turned to me fully. The dashboard glow lit her face soft and vulnerable, and I saw the girl I fell in love with, the one who drew hearts in latte foam and dreamed big enough for both of us. I backed you up in there because I meant it, she whispered, her voice thick. I was wrong that night, not for trying something new, but for not giving you the choice. I thought hiding it would make it fun, but it broke something small between us. I'm sorry, really sorry. The tears came then, quiet and real, and I pulled her across the console into my arms, her body shaking against mine. I held her tight, breathing in that coconut shampoo, feeling the weight of the last few weeks lift like steam off the stove. My own eyes burned as I told her I forgave her, that I was sorry for how hard I'd come down, that we'd keep talking like this, no more secrets, no more blended leftovers, literal or otherwise. We drove home in comfortable silence after that, her head on my shoulder at stoplights, my hand on her knee. That night in bed, we made love slow and tender, the kind that feels like starting over, every touch a reaffirmation, every kiss erasing the doubt. I lay there afterward, her breathing deep and even beside me, and let the full story wash over me one last time. The smell of that sauce, the clatter of the fork, the texts, the family dinner, the way her hand felt in mine under the table. I wasn't the villain, and she wasn't either. We were just two people learning that marriage isn't about perfect plates or zero waste. It's about showing up honest, even when it's messy and uncomfortable and a little gross. I still felt bad for hurting her that first night, the guilt a quiet echo in my chest. But I knew I'd do it again if it meant protecting the trust we were rebuilding. Stronger now, deeper. I'm still trying to process all of this. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more of my journey, make sure to subscribe.